Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and we have in the office here, studio, Phan of Pacific Private Money. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. You're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during this show. And the certificate is not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin. Check them out. They have both the spray tan and the regular tanning beds. Also, want to make a little mention here for how cool was it, the Napa Jazz Getaway. Go to their Facebook posts, and you'll see all the various artists who played there. It was a very, very cool time. Today's trivia theme is famous lines in the movie. So, Nam, let's kind of just start off as, we've been talking about in the past the Pacific Private Money Fund. Why does the fund exist?
Great question, Edward, and hello to the listeners, and congratulations to the Golden State Warriors who won this week, the championship. That was great.
Excellent.
Big parade in the city earlier in the week. So, great question. So, why does the Pacific Private Money Fund exist? Investors are starting for higher yields. I mean, every week we have people calling in or emailing us into our company asking what our return is. They've heard about us on the radio, they've seen us online, and they're hearing about high returns, and we ask them, well, what kind of return are you getting right now? Oftentimes, it's really low single-digit returns, like 1% or less, in their current investments. When they hear that our returns are 7.5% to 8%, they're surprised.
And okay, we'll repeat that: 7.5% to 8%.
Correct. Okay. Correct. Historically, since the fund's existence, it's been around 8%. So, higher yields. And so traditional investments just aren't providing the returns investors are looking for.
Okay, so when I first hear 7.5% to 8%, my ears percolate a little bit, and the first thing I think of is, it's got to be risky.
I suppose it's all relative. The asset that or collateral that's backing these investments is real estate. Bay Area real estate, and it's at conservative values that we're loaning to.
I mean, you're not doing 90% loan to values, are you?
No, as a company, we do up to 70%. So there's a lot of equity, and borrower has to come in with some, quotes, skin in the game, typically 30% at a minimum. The fund itself has a much lower loan to value. It's more like 55%.
Okay. One of the other things, because I do obviously know a little bit about the fund since I am an investor. In fact, the last dividend or distribution I got this last month was close to 8% actually. So that was very, very, I was very happy. The interesting thing is that with the fund being, let's say, or doing loans at 70% loan to value, I think one of the big benefits is the fact that because you're doing short-term loans, even if there's a correction in the real estate market, you're really not going to be that affected because it's not like you're doing 20-year loans on average.
Correct. So you're exactly right. So if it's a shorter term loan, then that real estate doesn't change overnight. Prices don't go up or go down significantly overnight. It takes time. So the market correction we had back in 2008, it took 2 or 3 years before it hit the bottom. So fact is, on top of that, is we make shorter term loans. In particular, we tend to choose shorter term loans for the fund.
Okay. And also, I guess you'll also won't get hit hard with interest rate risk either, because if interest rates start going up, then when the loans mature, you'll put that money back out at higher rates.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah. And if I understand it correctly, you get either a first or second deed of trust. It's secured by the house, let's say, so that if anything goes wrong, you can foreclose on the house. That's where the security comes in.
Correct. Worst case scenario, unfortunately, that's been rare.
Okay. I remember Mark telling us a couple times, though, that there was a foreclosure that had happened, but the fund actually benefited because they are turning it around and selling it for a little bit of a profit.
Yeah, the fund will benefit. It hasn't completely gone through the process, but there's enough equity in there when the property does sell. There was also some improvements done, so the value of the property will go up, and when we sell it, there will be a profit.
Yeah, and I remember also Mark telling us, when I say I remember Mark, for those of you who don't remember, Mark Phan is our regular co-host. He's doing a little traveling right now, so Phan from Pacific Private Money is kind of filling in for him, but he knows all the same information. The fact is, when you do a loan that for someone who wants to improve their property, you're doing 70% of the acquisition price. So as the client, as the borrower puts money into the property, they're increasing the value, which is making you less loan to value, making you even more conservative.
Correct.
Right?
So when we're making a loan, we typically only always look at the acquisition price.
Okay. Yeah.
Not the improved value.
Improved value. Yeah. I know there's some lenders out there that are doing based on ARV, after repair value, and I mean that could be kind of anybody's guess
Right.
on that. Let's see what else we got here. So with the rates of return right now, if interest rates go up, what do you think will happen with the yield on the fund?
Over time, it should go up as well.
Okay.
So there's always a little bit of latency period. The cost of capital, if interest rates go up, will go up. Conventional lenders will charge more. Over time, that will impact us to the positive. Well, for our shareholders, borrowers are going to be paying a little bit more. Interest rates will go up. So, but it'll be market driven.
Okay, very good. I can tell you what, we're going to go to our first commercial break here. We're talking about famous lines in the movies. Excuse me. In the movie Wall Street, which actor utters the line that greed is good? All right. The first caller with the correct answer is going to win that free tanning certificate. Call 888-912-1190 to answer this question. In the movie Wall Street, which actor utters the line that greed is good? All right, that's our trivia question. Again, 888-912-1190. Be the first one to call, and you'll win that free 5-pack tanning certificate, which you can use for any of the tanning services they have. So it's actually a very valuable prize that we're giving away. Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back. Okay, good. Good for a second.
Let's see.
What do you do for Father's Day?
Can I have my parents over? My wife will carry me some kind of nice. Yeah.
Very
How about
nice.
yourself?
We are going to hang around the day, and then at nighttime we're going to go to the concert type thing. Cool. Should be kind of fun. Okay. Let's talk about the kind of loans you guys do.
Yep. Okay.
Ready? Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special co-host, Phan of Pacific Private Money. First trivia question was, in the movie Wall Street, which actor utters the line that greed is good?
Michael Douglas.
Yes. What was the name of his character? You remember?
Gecko.
Gordon Gecko.
That's right.
Very good. All right. I want to make a quick mention here for the Transcendence Theater's award-winning concert series, Broadway Under the Stars, returns to Sonoma Valley this summer. Now, I went to their concert at the Civic Center in Marin, and it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to going to this one, too. Experience world-class wine and picnicking alongside sprawling vineyards all summer long, beginning June 16th, which was yesterday. You'll see top talent fill the stage in the open-air ruins of the Jack London State Historic Park in beautiful wine country. Enjoying numbers from lots of varying numbers they have. From Wicked, Mamma Mia, Book of Mormon. Check them out at bestnighthever.org. That's an easy one to remember.
Sounds like a great summer event.
It sounds awesome. I'm planning on going to it myself.
Nice.
Okay, so what kind of loans are provided by Pacific Private Money Fund for borrowers?
Yeah. So this is a term that Mark uses a lot, so I'll echo it. A lot of the loans we make, when people think of hard money, they think you're the lender of last resort. And that might have been the case 10 or 15 years ago. But if you can classify the loans we make now. They're more ones where there's transactional distress, and that's a term we use often. It's not necessarily borrower distress. For some reason,
what's the difference?
Transactional distress means that somebody's making a purchase on a home or purchasing it for investment or to live in, and then there's a glitch that occurs in the transaction. It's not necessarily the borrower's fault. It's not necessarily their credit history, although sometimes those are the cases.
Okay.
But an example would be they have a home that's on the market that they currently live in. They want to use the proceeds from that home to purchase the home that they're moving into, whether they're moving up or moving down.
Okay.
And because of the timing, they can't close on time on their sale of their home to use those proceeds. That's transactional distress.
Okay, so they might have an 800 FICO score, but they still can't control that side of the equation.
Right, and the reason why they come to us is banks won't make a loan, one loan covering two properties, but we will. We'll get paid off, and the borrower will pay us off when they sell their home. But in the meantime, they want to close on the home that they're moving into, and they need to do it because their escrow or their deposit might be in jeopardy. That's when oftentimes the realtor calls us or the mortgage broker, not the borrower themselves.
Yes.
So a lot of our referral sources, a lot of our business comes from the real estate community.
Okay. So a lot of these loans are ones where, again, it's the transaction itself is having a problem, not the borrower. Is that, I'm trying to think here, you also do commercial property. Oh, I know what I was going to ask. Is when you think of private lending, there aren't too many companies that can do personal residences. How can you do that?
Correct. So it's called consumer or owner-occupied loans, where the borrower is borrowing the funds for a property that they're intending to live in. It's much more highly regulated. Business purpose loans are non-owner occupied,
Okay.
are under different regulatory requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Consumer fall under a lot of the banking guidelines, so TRID, RESPA, other guidelines. We have the team to do it, and we also have the compliance component.
Gotcha.
So we've gone through the legal process of being able to make those types of loans. It's a lot more work, it's a lot more resource intensive, both from a personnel standpoint and from a disclosure standpoint. But we've invested the time and money to do that. So we're one of the few in California who will make those loans. So mortgage brokers love us because we're sort of plan B for them. Realtors as well, when plan A, that conventional loan, isn't available typically for short term for that borrower.
Yeah, because they would potentially lose the transaction completely, and this way you guys can come into the rescue, and then later on they can cash you out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
And do you guys charge prepayment penalties?
No.
Pay off early?
It's no prepayment penalty. It's typically the loan is a bridge loan. A lot of the shorter term loans we make. And actually, the mortgage broker oftentimes looks like a hero because they're finding a solution for a borrower, even though it's not within their organization. Mm-hmm. The mortgage broker will benefit, though, for that refinance when that borrower is able to pay us off.
So you're actually not in competition with the banks or the mortgage brokers. It sounds like you're actually a kind of conduit in a way. You actually work well with them.
Correct. So we sort of are babysitting that borrower while they're in our loan, and then we hand it back to that client and to that mortgage broker.
Okay. Getting back to the fund for a minute, because as I say, we happened to get an email here from someone who had heard us on the radio and said, I'm thinking about potentially investing a lot in your fund. Well, that's good news. But I want to start off small, to kind of like test the water, so to speak. Can I do that? So can they start off small and then add later?
Absolutely. So typically an investor who has just heard about us is starting out with the minimum. So the minimum requirement for investing in our fund is $50,000.
Okay.
Another requirement is because we're a Reg D fund, investors do need to be accredited. So which is $1 million net worth outside of their primary residence.
Okay.
But otherwise they mostly do start at a $50,000. In fact, we have a great story. This past week, we had an investor who had originally invested with us about 8-9 months ago.
Right.
Started with $50,000 and then added a little bit more before the end of the year, and then came to us this past week and added well over $1 million as their next tranche.
Wait, hold on. They started off with 50,000, added a little more, and then they just added another $1 million.
Yep. That's probably
I'd say that's testing the water quite a bit.
Right. And it's somebody who had actually reached out to us about a year and a half ago, and was following our company and our and the growth of the fund. That's when they made the plunge about a year after they had first engaged with us.
Okay, so they sound like they did a fair amount of due diligence on you, and then for them, 50,000 probably was not a huge amount because they got $1 million, and so they tested the waters. You guys proved yourself enough to where they added an extra $1 million.
Correct,
Wow.
and honestly, that's pretty common. Most people who engage with us after that first conversation or meeting, or they attend an event, they probably won't make a decision for 3-4 months, sometimes longer.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, we want people to make the decision on their terms.
Gotcha. So that they're not staying up late at night going, "Oh my gosh, what did I just do?"
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Totally understand.
Well, I was actually one of the first investors in the fund, so I've been in there since 2013, I think it is.
Yep.
And distributions come. They used to come quarterly, and Mark recently changed it, so now we actually get distributions every month.
Yeah, and
All
great
those checks.
And something you mentioned in the earlier segment where the return for this past month was closer to 8%.
Yeah.
We saw a slight drop, I guess, from last year from 8% down to 7.75%, and now it's back up going up.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. Second trivia question, commercial break. In what movie does Marlon Brando say his famous, "I could have been a contender"? Call 888-912-1190. Be the first one to call, and with the correct answer, you're going to win the Tan Bella certificate. So again, Marlon Brando said, "I could have been a contender." In what movie? Don't touch that dial. The Best of Investing will be right back. I was going to say, if you could talk a little louder, just because I have to keep adjusting this thing.
Mine's leaning too far back.
A little, yeah, and it just be a little boisterous is fine. Because remember, people are listening in their car and stuff, and we want to keep them engaged. So the stuff you're saying is really good. Okay.
Should have my Red Bull.
I got something similar.
5-hour energy drink.
No, actually, this is something. Let's try this.
Sound like some homebrew? It's like some kind of a homebrew.
No,
there.
it's called 5150. It's almost like almost like a 5-hour energy, but it actually tastes better. It's sugar free.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'll give you a little zippity doo now without it, and not really any crash either.
Oh, that tastes good.
Yeah.
5-hour has sugar in it?
No, that also may be sugar free. These guys have two versions.
Mm-hmm.
The one with sugar, I don't think even tastes as good.
5150. Have to give them a plug. Okay, so let's see. Talk about our fund event.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Webinar, June 28th.
Yeah, let's just start. We'll ask how.
Yeah.
We're starting to talk about this. How to get a hold of you, and
Yeah.
then let's kind of how to get your deals and stuff. Here's a little mini kick.
How
Anyway.
quick does it take effect? Okay.
Yeah, very fast. Okay. Welcome back to the Best of Investing again. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Phan of Pacific Private Money. Second trivia question: in what movie does Marlon Brando say his famous "I could have been a contender"?
I'm so bad at these, but is it a Streetcar Named Desire?
No, that's the one where he goes Stella.
Oh.
But because he said the same thing, wait, like this. That's the same thing. On the waterfront. So you probably heard the name, but it's like unless you see the movie, I
Never
haven't seen.
would have guessed that.
Never guess that. Okay. So I want to make another special mention here. Also, for if you're thinking of a wedding venue or family reunion, check out the San Francisco Theological Seminary in San Anselmo. They have a beautiful 2-story, completely remodeled Victorian home, which features 6 spacious bedrooms and 3 full baths. They can accommodate up to 14 guests in the various beds or 50 people for a reception. So, not too large, but kind of an intimate place. And they'll provide you a memorable event you won't soon forget. Call 415-451-2836 or go to www.seminaryevents.com. All right, so Nam, we've been talking about the Pacific Private Money Fund. Wanted to ask you about deal flow. How do you get your deals?
Great question. We talked about in an earlier segment how we're Plan B for a lot of mortgage brokerages and loan officers and realtors as well. That's we can't tell our story fast enough. We also talked about the fact that we're one of the few private lenders who will do consumer owner loans. That's really what a lot of mortgage brokerages do all day long. So whenever they have transactional distress and they can't come through, sometimes at the 11th hour, or somebody who won't qualify for the loan, they come to us. So we go to real estate events. We go to real estate offices, mortgage companies, and we let them know what we do.
Okay, so far, we started talking about the fund and how you're providing the investor clients with returns of around 7.5% to 8%. And if people want to get more information, do you guys have any seminars, webinars? Where's your office located?
Yeah, great question. So we're in Novato. We have both webinars, so online events for people who can't make the drive to Novato, and then we have live events at our office, typically once a quarter for each. In fact, our next event is Wednesday, June 28th. This one will be a webinar, so you can go online and learn about the fund. To register for it, call into the office. Call 415-883-2150, or you can go to our website, which is www.pacificprivatemoney.com.
Okay.
And you can register, go online. It's from 5 to 6 p.m. on June 28th. Talk about the fund, talk about the performance and the history of it. Great way to learn about the fund. You can actually type in questions, and we'll try to answer all the questions live on the spot.
Okay, I like that. And we're kind of bouncing between talking about the fund from an investor standpoint and then also the borrowers. Getting back to the borrower part for a minute, do you put them through the same kind of ringer that a bank typically does?
We qualify them in a way, yes, but it's more for the exit. So transactional distress, there's a lot of different ways to interpret what that means. And we have a team who all have banking experience, conventional lending experience, but at the end of the day, our business is about making a judgment call, subjective.
Okay.
We're not algorithm driven, we're story driven. So we follow some general banking guidelines, but our business exists because we can make judgment calls to say, does this borrower or this scenario make sense?
So in other words, so if someone had, let's say, only a 620 FICO score,
we wouldn't rule them out.
Wouldn't rule them out, okay, because
Right.
potentially their transaction might make sense.
Correct, and the circumstances may qualify them for our loan. Now, we do underwrite to a certain degree along conventional banking guidelines because we're looking for that exit. So we're not underwriting to bank standards for their loan today, but we may say, you know what, in 12 months or 24 months, does this person have a portfolio that will fit a conventional lender?
So that you can get cashed out.
So we can get out, and the borrower, we don't want the borrower in a high-cost loan for forever.
Yeah,
that's not our business.
It's not good for them either.
Correct. And we don't compete with banks, but we want to send that borrower back to whoever sent us that borrower in the first place.
It's interesting. I'm thinking about from a risk standpoint that if I'm the bank, I would much rather make a loan to a situation where you said like a distressed transaction rather than a distressed borrower, because here's what I'm getting at. I would much rather lend to somebody who's got a lot of equity in their property and has a 650 or 620 FICO because they had a medical situation or they got divorced or whatever the situation where their credit got dinged.
Mm-hmm.
Versus somebody who just says, oh, here, I got an 800 FICO score, so lend to me, but I need, 90% financing. People lose jobs, they get divorced, they have health issues, they forget to pay their payment. There's reasons why FICO scores can go down, and yet, again, I would much rather lend to somebody with a 60% loan to value than 90% loan to value, and,
right.
and kind of ignore his credit score.
In a way, you'll hear this around our office oftentimes, whether it's Mark or Rick, who's our lead underwriter. Decades ago, there were no FICO scores. It was, it was about who you knew. It was about sort of community banking. So we're more like banking was, 40 or 50 years ago, where it's really about the story.
Kind of think about George Bailey of
Yes.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, so we're the George Baileys of the world, I guess. But it's fun, and every scenario is different, and oftentimes, we're really happy to help that borrower out.
Yeah.
And again, they'll hopefully qualify for a conventional loan down the line.
And I would think that you probably get some repeat borrowers, don't you?
We do. We have some borrowers who use private money for investment purposes to acquire properties that they can't acquire because they have too many investment properties, so a conventional bank won't make a loan to them, or they don't have the funds necessary.
Or speed.
Speed.
It's kind of the main thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is, you can get a fantastic deal on a property, but if you only have 2 or 3 weeks to close, there aren't too many banks that can get appraisals done and all their paperwork done in time. And the scary thing with the banks, a lot of times, I'm not trying to downplay banks per se, but the scary thing is that, how many times will a bank say, sure, we'll get this done in time, but something happens and they can't, and you can't just necessarily go to your seller and say, sorry, the bank took too long. I mean, the seller says, forget you, we're out of contract.
Correct, and a lot of investor buyers typically, they won't even look at conventional banks, for those types of scenarios.
Yeah, because it's better to just pay you guys a little bit higher interest rate, get the deal done, and they can always cash you out later.
Exactly. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. And is there any? If I'm an investor in the fund, there is a minimum that I have to stay in?
Yes, there's a 1-year lockup,
Okay,
and actually that's the lowest. That's the lowest minimum. It, by regulation, has to be at least 12 months.
Yeah, that's not so bad. I mean, how many people want to invest and take the money out in a year anyway?
Yeah, we tell them if your plan isn't to keep your money invested for a year, you should invest.
Gotcha.
At least with us.
Okay. I mean, I know there is a prepayment or an early withdrawal penalty if they need it, but still, most people keep it in longer.
Correct.
Okay. Third trivia question. In what movie does Alan say, I'm not supposed to be within 200 feet of a school or a Chuck E. Cheese? Call 888-912-1190 to answer that question. And that one's not like super old, like On the Waterfront. It's a little bit sooner in time. Okay, don't touch that dial. The best in investing. I'll be right back.
School or a Chuck E. Cheese. Alan, you said?
His name, yeah. Figured I'd give it a hint. I mean, if you've never seen the movie, then it won't make sense. But when I say the name of the movie, you'll go, I've at least heard of that movie.
Can you tell me after the break what the name of the movie is?
Yeah, I'll announce it on the air.
Okay. No, so before I guess. I don't know that it's a movie I've seen.
The Hangover.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Oh, if that's then it makes sense. And the thing is, yeah, I saw The Hangover, but I totally forgot about that line.
It's funny.
All right, what else we got to cover?
Deals of the week.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
couple, and I'll tell
okay.
you in advance that they're not fund-worthy deals. But
Okay.
I want to highlight the fact that the transactional distress isn't the only thing we do. So it's
okay, that's fine. I mean, yeah, they're just the deals that you've looked at.
Yeah.
These are the kind of people who come to us.
Mhm.
That's fine. All right, ready?
Yep.
Well, welcome back to the Best of Investing. Edward Brown here, along with Nom Phan. All right, third trivia question: in what movie does Alan say, "I'm not supposed to be within 200 feet of a school or a Chuck E. Cheese"?
I don't know. I haven't seen that movie, whatever it is.
The Hangover. Part 1, I guess. All right, so can you give us some examples, any deals of the week?
Yeah, deals of the week. So a lot of the deals we do are your typical private money deals, the ones that we talked about earlier that go in the fund. But I want to cover a couple of deals that aren't typically fund worthy, but ones that come across our desk and ones that could make sense for us.
Right.
So we're actually looking at a deal right now where we have a gentleman who actually owns 2 food trucks. So he has food trucks that are deployed throughout the North Bay, and he wants to open a brick and mortar restaurant. So good for him. He's expanding his enterprise, bank's not necessarily going to look at this scenario. Restaurants can be tough business.
Sure, especially moving ones.
Yeah, and moving restaurants. But also the other thing too is somebody who succeeds at a mobile restaurant may not necessarily succeed at a
brick and
station
mortar
or brick and mortar. But This person has experience. They're taking over a business a restaurant that had been closed. They also have collateral. They have a rental property that they're going to sell.
Bingo.
Bingo. There. The story makes sense for us.
Yeah.
And the reason for me bringing it up isn't that, hey, this is one that necessarily is a fund-worthy loan, but for people who are listening, whether you're a real estate broker or mortgage broker or you're in the industry, if you have a scenario like this, contact us. Because oftentimes we can solve the problem. Again, they're looking to purchase this restaurant, they need the funds quickly. We have the collateral in the, or we have, the story makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's one we can.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up that kind of story because a lot of times banks won't care about what other collateral you have. They just don't like the idea of what you're doing with the money.
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand what I understand about banks, they don't like the idea of having to even file a notice of default because then they have to change the rules with the reserves and all that. So a loan can cost them a lot of money, even if it's not in danger of actually them losing money on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they do a $200,000 loan on a property that's worth $1 million, and that sounds really safe. But if $200,000 was used, let's say, to buy a restaurant, and the person failed, now they may have an issue where the person can't pay that $200,000, and now the bank has to start filing foreclosure. They don't want to do that.
Right.
Because then now the feds say, well, now you've got a problem loan, and now you've got to put extra reserves aside, which means they can't lend that money out. So a $200,000 problem might cost them $400,000 or $500,000, let's say,
right.
in problems. It's not worth it to them, so they don't want to go into a loan where they are having a high success that it may go bad. However, with Pacific Private Money, on a deal like that, of course you don't want the guy to fail, but for a property that's worth $1 million, where you've got a $200,000 first, I'm just giving you an example,
right.
$200,000 first mortgage, either you're going to make a lot of money if you foreclose on it, or the borrower will find some other lender to cash you out.
Right. Right. And in this case, his rental property is on the market. So he's going to have the income to pay us off as soon as he sells his property.
And that's the other reason why banks won't want to look at that, because they don't charge enough points up front, and it's not worth their brain damage to do a loan that's going to get paid back in 30 days or 60 days. But you guys do charge points.
We do. Typically 2 to 3 points.
Okay, so that makes it worthwhile that even if someone borrows the money and pays you back in a week, I mean, that's actually, you make a great rate of return because of the points you charge.
Yeah, and for the loans that we have in the fund, we want that. We're okay with higher turnover of capital with loans paying off.
For that reason, because you keep charging points on that.
Exactly.
So how is the structure of the fund? People invest in the fund. The Mark is the president. He pretty much decides which loans are going to come due, or where they're going to get deployed. How are his interests aligned with the investors?
Great question. Well, first of all, the investors get a preferred return.
Okay.
7%. That's what they're per our private placement memorandum. That's what they get, and then they earn 50% of the what's called EDC, the excess distributable cash or profit, and that's where the alignment comes in. Because if the fund profits on anything over that 7%, the investors get half.
Okay. And I remember Mark in the past had said that he also splits points with the fund, which is really good because then that doesn't give an incentive for him to charge a low rate of interest and charge a whole bunch of points and keep all the points himself.
Right. In that calculation for the profit are points and dock and processing fees too.
Okay. So it's almost like a 50-50 split in a way. It's totally that, but he is saying, but the first 7%, you got to make sure that the investors get.
Correct.
Okay. So, that's a good incentive. And I've known Mark now for, 7 years now. And I've just been very happy with his integrity.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Any other examples you want to give us?
We have a gas station actually scenario where typically we wouldn't look at a gas station. They're just can be very difficult loans to make, and a lot of people don't. But this person was approved by small business for a small business loan, SBA loan, but he waited too long, and needed to close and came to us, and we're looking at the file. The SBA lender we've talked to and said, he could have avoided this whole thing had he not finished the process sooner with us.
Yeah.
Now he's in a crunch. Again, goes back to transactional distress. And once this deal closes, if we decide to fund it, the SBA lender said, I will refinance them as soon as possible.
Wow.
So
okay, so there's the exit strategy there, because I know, we did a transaction once with the SBA. Now, ours took an inordinate amount of time. It took us 18 months to close it. Usually they only take about 3 to 4 months. But again, you're dealing with bureaucracy, and there's so much paperwork with the SBA. So when you can get your loan with them, they're great. But it's getting to that point. So it sounds like this guy had an opportunity to buy a gas station at a reasonable price, and he was trying to get SBA financing, but because he delayed in the time, now he's at that crunch. So Pacific Private Money may potentially lend him the money to buy it, with the SBA coming in behind. Can you get any letters from the SBA
stating that? I would talk to our underwriters, but we have some sort of confidence that the exit is a solid exit with that SBA lender. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't do the loan. And again, these are two, exceptions.
But you're not going to. SBA. They do 90% financing. You guys aren't doing 90% based on.
No.
Okay.
No.
So
it fits within our general guidelines.
Like the 70%
correct
type of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So this guy's come up with extra money now that he wouldn't have had to had he gotten the SBA to begin with.
Right. So some cautionary tales in part for the borrower. It's like you need to do this quickly if you're going to get a loan, but also just for others, these are some of the types of loans we see. Now they're more exceptions rather than rules, and they wouldn't be necessarily fund-worthy type loans. But point of it is that private money can solve a lot of solutions, a lot of problems.
So give out your information again for people who either need to borrow money quickly, don't have enough time to go to the bank, or people who are sitting with money who want to earn 7.5% to 8% interest secured by these mortgages.
Yep, same phone number, same website. So phone number 415-883-2150, and website www.pacificprivatemoney.com.
And can they talk to you directly?
They can ask for me. They'll or we can connect them with Rick, our underwriter, if they're borrowing.
Okay, so if they're borrowing, they can talk to Rick. If they want to invest, they can talk to Phan.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We are going to come back with some closing comments here on the best of investing. So don't touch that dial. Good. Just pretty fast. We have 5 minutes to go. Bing.
Okay, so let's see.
We'll cover the last 5 minutes.
Let's see. Maybe reiterate the June 28th.
Okay.
I always want to plug when I'm on the show about mortgage brokers contacting us about our refer recapture program, how we can help them.
And do you pay anything to these guys? Or?
We have, we can put referral agreements. We're trying to put more referral agreements in place with mortgage brokers. But we have to do it if it's a regional company, then we have to do it with the regional office. If it's a national company, then we have to go through the national tax. It is.
All right. I'm just going to ask you what do you want to cover on this, okay? Because we didn't ask you what trivia. Here we go. Well, welcome back to the best of investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Phan of Pacific Private Money. In our last 5 minutes, what do you want to cover there, my friend?
Well, I just want to reiterate what I mentioned earlier, that we have quarterly fund events online, and then also quarterly we have events at our office in downtown Novato on Grant Avenue. Next fund event is a fund webinar, so that's the online event, and that's June 28th from 5 to 6 p.m. You can register with us through our website, which is pacificprivatemoney.com, or you can call into the office and we'll register you to attend. The furthest participant we had so far was from Florida.
Wow.
So, we started because
I found you.
I don't know. A lot of people find us online, though. When people type in private money, then we come up to the top. But furthest away was Florida. Next furthest away was Michigan. So it's great. We're reaching out to people outside of California.
So you can allow investors outside of California to invest.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. We only lend in California, but from an investment standpoint, you can be out of state, not a problem. Another thing I'd like to emphasize is, again, we always talk about our referral sources being mortgage brokers and realtors. Always happy to do presentations to their offices. We have a refer and capture program. It's a program for mortgage brokers to be able to, they send us a borrower and we're able to provide a loan to them. Even if we're not, we always send that borrower back for hopefully the refinance.
Yeah.
So we have a program in place, very successful. We always stay on top and take care of whoever sends us a business.
Well, back to the old, it's who you know with regard to the story, and keep good relationships.
Yep. We're very fast. We always say yes or no quickly with our referral sources. If we can't do the loan, hopefully we can find somebody who can, but we don't want to waste anyone's time either.
What's the typical time frame that you fund a loan?
It depends. It can be as short as a week. Don't want to overpromise that though, and
Yeah.
say in a week. But typically, give us a couple of weeks. Certainly, the more time, the better. But oftentimes, we're contacted at the 11th hour. So sometimes people can't help but come to us because conventional financing fell through at the 11th hour. They can't help but come to us and need funding quickly. But that's what private money generally is. It's fast speed.
Yeah, I mean, a week is pretty short.
Very short.
And the banks have to get independent appraisals, but if there's an appraisal that's already in existence, I mean, do you have those regulations, or can you accept someone else's appraisal?
We can accept someone else's appraisal.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't always do appraisal. Sometimes we'll do, it's called a BPO, which is a broker price opinion.
Okay. Which I got to think is cost less than an appraisal.
It's cost less, and oftentimes you can have those done quickly in less time.
Sometimes if it's in your own backyard, you might not even need that.
Yeah, well, you know what? Our focus and the majority of our loans are in California or in the immediate Bay Area.
Okay.
We've done 1,200 plus loans throughout the Bay Area, so at this point we know our market really well.
And what's the default rate?
Boy, less than 1%.
Okay, so
really
of the 1,200 loans, less than 12 have defaulted.
Yeah, or have gone into some sort of foreclosure proceedings.
Okay.
Probably less than half a dozen. In that case,
Okay.
we probably filed a notice of default on a couple dozen, but actually turning into a full-blown foreclosure, it's a very low number.
Okay, so somehow these people didn't want to lose their property, these borrowers, and they figured out a way to pay you.
Yeah, so up front with solid underwriting, downstream it leads to fewer issues, fewer foreclosures.
And I assume you work with your borrowers because you guys are not loan-to-own guys?
No, we're not. So we'll try to work it out with the borrower as a first pass.
Okay, sounds good. So Phan of Pacific Private Money, thank you again for being our guest. Give out your information one more time.
Sure. Phone number is 415-883-2150. Website is www.pacificprivatemoney.com.
Very good. Here's our thoughts for the day. America's first nudist organization was founded in 1929 by 3 men. Yeah, I think I'll pass. And Charles Lindbergh took only 4 sandwiches with him on his famous transatlantic flight. I don't know how he did it because I need more than that going from SFO to LAX. All right, tune in next week to The Best of Investing. Why? Because we're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown. We're wishing you the best of investing. So long. Yep. What's up to that?
You do 5 years of this.